Welcome back to my channel English with Aleena. In today's video, we are going to discuss the important question and answers of the chapter The Last Lesson. If you are watching my video for the first time, please subscribe and let me know in the comments what other topics you want me to cover. Question 1. Everybody during the last lesson is filled with regret. Answer: Yes, M. Hamill is filled with regret because he had not taken enough interest in teaching French, as he often sent students for pretty errands and gave them a holiday if why he didn't wanted to teach. Franz regretted that he had not been learning his lessons but skipping school for enjoying other activities. He also regretted that M. Hamill was going away, that he would never see him again, despite his strictness and crankiness. The villagers regretted that they had not utilized the opportunities given them for learning French when it was possible. That is why they had turned up into full strength for the last lesson. Thus, all of them regretted that this is their last French lesson. The order from Berlin that only German would be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine came as a shock to people. Everyone was taken over by regret for not learning their French language properly. Villagers sitting on the back benches during M. Hamill's last lesson regretted for not having gone to school. Franz, a student who didn't like attending classes, regret missing out on his lessons. Further, M. Hamill too regretted giving holidays to students to go fishing and sending students to perform chores around the school. Thus, everyone in Alsace and Lorraine was filled with regret during the last lesson. The regret is a mark of people's respect for their culture, traditions, and language. It also shows their loneliness for the ideal of wife leave France. How different from usual was the atmosphere at school on the day of the last lesson? Answer: the order from Berlin that only German would be taught in the school of Alsace and Lorraine henceforth changed the atmosphere at school, as unusual silence prevailed compared to the normal hustle and bustle earlier at the start of school every day. Hamill had changed into a soft speaking teacher from his harshness and strictness earlier. Hammond had also dressed differently, wearing the clothes reserved for inspection days and other important occasions. The whole school seemed so strange and solemn to Franz, but the strangest thing was that villagers attended school to show his respect to M. Hamill as they had realized the importance of their language. Everybody looked sad that it was going to be their last French lesson. On the day of last lesson, the school wore a different look. Usually, at the start of the school, it would buzz with activity which one could hear in the streets. The opening and closing of the desk, the lessons repeated in unison, very loud, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. Commonplace, but on the last day, the French class all was still. Poor Franz had counted on the commotion to get into the class without being seen, but nothing of the sort happened. M. Hamill was dressed formally, and the backbenches, which otherwise used to be remain empty, were fully occupied by the villagers. The atmosphere was sober and charged with emotions all around. How did the order from Berlin change the situation in school? The order from Berlin had stopped the teaching of the French language in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The people in the village were saddened by this, so that the children and villagers attending the schools were silent, and the normal hustle and bustle of the school starting was missing. Even M. Hamel, the French teacher, was not his usual strict self. He was also dressed in ceremonial clothes normally reserved for inspection and prize days. However, the most surprising fact was that villagers, regretting they did not utilize the opportunities for learning French when it was possible, were all occupying all the back benches to attend the last French lesson. Earlier, they had been more concerned about their livelihoods and so had never attended school. This shocking order from Berlin after defeat of France shocked the French people. It declared that all the schools in the two French districts of Alsace and Lorraine would now teach only German. This showed saddened but also hurt the pride of the people of France. On the day of French teacher M. Hamel's last lesson, even the village's elders came to show respect to him for serving the community faithfully for 40 years. The usual hustle and bustle too was missing from the school. Franz found it unusually quiet as it has been on Sunday morning. M. Hamel was dressed in his formal suit. Even though Franz reached school late, but M. Hamel did not scold him. He then went praising the French language at length by referring the most beautiful language. He called upon the French people to safeguard their language among themselves and never forget it. The order from Berlin aroused a particular zeal in school. The order from Berlin had stopped teaching of the French language in the school of Alsace and Lorraine. This shocking development suddenly aroused a lot of zeal in the various people in the story. M. Hamel, the French teacher, changed his behavior from being cranky and strict teacher to that of very kind person, as it would be his last lesson and he would be going away the next day. He also, with more understanding and patience, Franz was not interested in learning the languages earlier, but now he suddenly realized that what he had been missing and became very attentive in the class. The villagers regretted that they did not utilize the opportunities given them for learning French when it was possible, so they are turned up in full strength. The order from Berlin brought up sense, shock, and surprise in the class. They were all dumbstruck. As per the order, this was the last French class. Alsace and Lorraine has been captured by the Prussians, so only German would be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Hammer had to leave the next day. Now they all felt passionate about their mother tongue. All the amendment village elders feel guilty for neglecting their mother tongue. Now they came to the class and showed their love and respect for their mother tongue. They were in awe for their French teacher M. Hamel. The entire school was filled with an air of repentance and guilt. There was complete quietness. The teacher M. Hamel was dressed at his best and was full of emotions. Even the students in the class, including Franz, felt remorse for their indifference to their mother tongue. There was an atmosphere of stillness and quietness in the class. Education prepares you for the future. The people in this story suddenly realize how precious their language is to them. What shows you this and why does this happen? When the order had come from Berlin that henceforth that only German would be taught in the schools, people realized that it was the last day of to show their affection and love for the language. Many elder people came to attend school, occupying the last benches, which had usually remained vacant earlier. France regretted for not having learned the participles when M. Hamel suddenly appraised them of the fact they would become a laughing stock before the Germans. Their language was their identity to the key to their present. The strongest evidence on how important their language became can be taken away from M. Hamel's memorizing last lesson. Everyone was extremely attentive. Franz too found the lessons quite easy to understand, when earlier he had found the French lessons too very difficult. After the districts of Alsace and Lorraine became the part of the Prussia, an order from Berlin passed from the henceforth only German would be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. M. Hamel expressed his sadness over the fact that Frenchmen would not be able to speak or write their own language. He praised French as the most beautiful, clear, and the logical language. He asked his fellow Frenchmen to protect their language as it is like a key to their prison they were about to be in. This made people realize how precious their language was to them. This also shows the people's love for their country and culture, which is reflected through their love for the French language. A linguistic minority in an state, how do you think they can keep their language alive? For example, Punjabis in Bangalore, Tamilians in Mumbai, Kannadigas in Delhi, and Gujaratis in Kolkata. Answer: the linguistic minority in any state cannot exercise a linguistic skill like the native of the state at the workplace of the education and organization. English or Hindi or any other language helps a lot to cope with the work and learning person, but when it comes to understanding the basic norms of the society in order to socialize, they face linguistic barriers during the communication. To keep their language alive, the linguistic minorities can form small communities when they can celebrate their festivals as per traditions. They also can continue to speak their native language in their homes and make their children learn the language. They should also try to visit their native place at intervals to stay connected. The linguistic minority in any state probably faces a similar kind of discrimination as the ethnic or religious. Their level of acceptance would depend on the states in question. Some metropolitan cities such as Delhi and Mumbai are more diverse, and hence it might be easier for the language minorities to assimilate. The language is alive in the constant contact with other members of the minority group. They organize and participate in the cultural events and traditions that celebrate their language and culture. In other words, we can say that they keep their language alive by creating mini Punjab in Bangalore, mini Chennai in Mumbai, mini Bangalore in Delhi, and mini Surat in Kolkata. So yeah, that's all for today. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other English topics you want me to cover in the upcoming videos of my channel. And yes, stay tuned for the long videos on grammar topics of English.